Hi there, and thanks for joining me, Nicola Hume, for Move IQ's latest property lowdown. In this episode, I'm going to be talking leaseholds, what they are, and crucially, what happens when a leasehold expires and your rights to extend or renew. Now, leaseholds are really common in the UK, especially in flats. And it's a funny old arrangement in some ways. When you buy a freehold property, typically a house, you, the owner, have the legal right to use and occupy the property. You have full control over your home and the land that it's built on. And you're responsible for maintaining and managing it. When you buy a leasehold property, however, you are buying the right to live in and use the property for a specific length of time. This is usually 99 years, but some new leases are now guaranteed for 999 years. And I'll talk about those a little bit later on. By the way, if property know-how is something that you can use, do subscribe to our newsletter and you'll get advice and updates from our property guru, Phil Spencer, delivered straight into your inbox. You'll find a little link below. How long is left on your lease when you buy it is set out in the lease agreement with the freeholder, who is the owner of the building. This lease agreement also sets things like how much ground rent you'll have to pay and any restrictions or conditions on how the property is used. But what happens when that leasehold period runs out? If a leasehold expires, you'll no longer have the right to live there. The freeholder will be the legal owner of the property and can increase the ground rent as they see fit or even ask for the property back. Obviously, this is a scenario you most definitely want to avoid. But it's not just an expiring leasehold that can create difficulties. As the lease gets shorter, the property's value decreases, and it may become harder to sell or mortgage. In fact, anything less than 80 years to run can be tricky. So what can you do? The 20-year lease rule is a specific provision in the UK law that applies to leasehold properties. Under this rule, if a lease has less than 80 years remaining, but more than 21, then the leaseholder has the right to extend the lease for an additional 90 years. This does, however, come at a cost. How much depends on several factors, including the length remaining on the lease, the value of the property, and the current market conditions. The cost to extend a leasehold is calculated as the difference between the value of the property with a long lease and the value of the property with a shorter lease. This is known as the marriage value. Extending a leasehold can end up being a chunky outlay, anything from several £1,000s to hundreds of thousands of pounds. Generally, the closer the lease is to expiry, the more expensive it will be to renew. It's also worth noting that the 20-year rule doesn't apply to some rent-controlled flats or flats in certain types of charitable housing trusts. In recent years, there have been calls for further reform of the leasehold system in the UK, particularly concerning the sale of new build leasehold houses rather than flats, and the high ground rents charged on many new leases. The government has announced plans to ban the sale of new build leasehold houses and to cap ground rent on new leases. There's also a process in place to make it cheaper for leaseholders to extend their lease or buy the freehold. In the meantime, some new leaseholds are being granted for 999 years, which is becoming more common in new build homes, thanks to reform in how leaseholds work. There's a lot going on in this area, so make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, hit the alert bell, and we'll keep you posted as things progress. And then join me again next time.